Alright guys, I bet some of you may not have been expecting this video today. It's completely different from any drama slop I've done, but I felt like I just got back from seeing Scream 7 in the movie theaters. I did not think I'd be sitting here and making this video, but Scream 7 is... There's a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to Scream 7, more than you would think if you are a Scream fan that happens to be watching this, that I felt like it's worth having an upload worth talking about. So, for anyone who plans on seeing Scream 7 in theaters, I just want to let you know that this video will contain massive spoilers, so if you do not want to be spoiled, feel free to click off this video. You can come back after you've seen the movie, then come here and feel free to discuss it in the comments section if any of you happen to be Scream fans. But anyway, Scream 7 is, I don't know if I've made it open, but I'm definitely a fan of the Scream franchise, as you could tell. So I've been tuning into it for several years now at this point. I've tuned into it ever since I was in middle school. So I've enjoyed it for a decent amount of time. The thing about Scream 7 is it is one of the weirdest Scream movies I think I have ever seen in the entire franchise. Maybe I need more time to decide like where it really falls if I'm ranking every single Scream movie. But it definitely is one of the weirder ones. I can honestly see people not liking this one at first, and that's totally understandable. But then in years' time, if people revisit Scream 7, they'll go, oh wow, this movie actually is a lot better than we gave it credit for. I think we kind of have to let the movie digest before we give like a full review of it. I personally, I don't know. It's a weird Scream movie because there are a lot of things I like about it. There's also a lot of things that I wish they could have done better. I would say my biggest thing is one of the Ghostface killers that gets revealed, who is Jessica. I think her name is Jessica Bowden. Is that her name? Yeah, Jessica Bowden, I believe is her name. She is the blonde woman who's the mother of that, like, Scream fanatic or whatever. I would say she is among one of the best Ghostface killers I think we have ever gotten in the entire Scream franchise. I'm not even kidding. I actually think her story and motive is so unique from anything we have seen in the franchise. And I gotta give it props for that, because sometimes what you'll see in a Scream movie is... I'll bring up Scream 6, for example. Scream 6, the motive when the father and his two kids got revealed to be the killers, it was literally just Scream 2's motive. Like, the motive was the same thing. It's like, oh, you killed Richie, who was part of our family, now we want revenge. It's the same thing as Debbie Loomis's motive from Scream 2. It's not really anything unique, and it doesn't really stand apart, which probably turned a lot of people off from watching that movie. Fair enough. But, Scream 6 is, like, one of those movies that's, like, very... I still enjoyed it, even despite that. Like, a lot of people seem to just really, like... I don't know. I think there's a weird toxic fandom, and I've noticed this like as a pattern. And funny enough, this is the motive of Scream 5. So when you really think about it, Scream 5 was really ahead of its time, honestly, when it came to this stuff. Toxic fandom is like a massive pattern I see with these movies. Like, out of Scream 5 even, I've seen people fucking shit on the movie. Out of Scream 6, I've seen people shit on the movie. Scream 7, I'm seeing people shit on the movie. Again, it's gonna be one of those things where people are gonna hate on this movie, then they're gonna look back at it and realize, there's actually some parts of it that I didn't think were that bad. I would say for the most part, I enjoyed the movie more than disliked it. But there are parts of the movie that I really dislike that prevent me from putting it higher in a ranking system. But even then, there are still so many weird parts about this movie that I think are worth talking about. And so that's going to be like the exposition going into this video. And we're watching this guy named 3C Films. We usually never watch this guy because he is completely unrelated to Drama Slop. He's a movie reviewer. But that's who we're going to be reacting to today. I mean, like, we usually don't get that much of an opportunity to react to people like this, so that's who we're going to watch.
Scream 7 is the latest entry in the Scream franchise, this time going back to Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, or I should say,
And obviously Neve Campbell is just... always amazing to see in a Scream movie. Like, she's just phenomenal every time she's on.
Sydney Evans. We follow her and finally meet her daughter Tatum, where they just live an ordinary life in a small town named Pine Grove. Everything seems to be going well and happy for them until a ghost face calls and starts wreaking havoc on her life.
Yeah. So that's basically the like, I gotta say, also, I'm very happy in Scream 6 and 7. The reason why I like them more is I'm fucking just so happy they didn't do Woodsboro for the 1,000,000th time. They've already done Woodsboro in the first Scream film. Okay, obviously, because it's the first film. Understandable. Scream 4, okay, it makes sense to go back to Woodsboro in Scream 4, because, given the plot of the movie. Scream 5, like, I mean, they're bringing back the franchise, I guess, kind of. It's to play it safe, obviously, as they said it back in Woodsboro in Scream 5, so that's... But even then, I was getting a little bit tired of it. So I am happy that they did another fictional town, but it was in Indiana this time, Pine Grove, Indiana. Yeah, I'm happy again. Like, it's like they're mixing up the locations. And by the way, just for the record, we're definitely getting Scream 8 down the line sometime. Like, we're definitely gonna see that one way or another.
Here, Sydney must now do everything in her power to not only discover this ghost face, but to protect her daughter Tatum. And that's all pretty much said without giving any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. I will do a spoiler review on this movie because there are a lot of crazy...
Oh shit, spoiler-free? No, I want a spoiler review. Fuck it. No, let's try to get a spoiler review from this guy. Hold on. Alright, so as of the time of me recording this video, 3C Films has not put out his spoiler review just yet. So I guess we're just going to be stuck with this video for the time being, which is fine. I mean, like I said, this is going to be a spoiler review. I'm going to give as many spoilers as I can. We'll go into more of it as we go to each part of this video, but I already gave my exposition about how I felt about Scream 7. I still think it is one of the weirder Scream movies in the franchise.
Free review. I will do a spoiler review on this movie because there are a lot of crazy things that happen I need to dissect and talk about. But until then... Oh my goodness, let's just admit it. The lead up to Scream 7 has been kind of a crap show. And
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, Scream 7's buildup was not good. I don't know how they were going to deal with Scream 7. Because here's the thing, right? Before Scream 7 came out, I just wondered if they're not going to get Melissa Barrera or Jenna Ortega to reprise their roles from Scream 5 and 6. How the fuck are they going to do this? Because, I don't know, man. Like, it seems to me like, I guess technically, if you look at it, the ending to Scream 6 does close off Samantha's story. You know, she puts down the mask of Billy Loomis and she puts it away for good and she doesn't deal with it ever again. That's fine, you know, like, I feel like that is I guess, satisfying enough conclusion. But when you have the context that she was supposed to be in Scream 7, but then she was fired because the director called her anti-Semitic because she said Free Palestine on an Instagram story, is fucking crazy to me. Like, here's the thing, right? I could understand if Melissa Barrera was, like, doing Hassan levels of, like, dog whistling anti-Semitism against Jewish people, right? I could understand that. The reality is, though, Melissa Barrera has probably the most normal take on the Israel-Palestine issue. She just said Free Palestine and was saying that, like, Israel's war crimes are inexcusable. That's not a hot take. I think it's okay to say that Israel has a right to exist, but it doesn't have a right to be committing war crimes onto Palestine. I think it's totally fine to have that take. I bring that up for context. Now, again, I think recently, I don't know how recently, but Jenna Ortega did confirm that she left Scream 7 because of how unfairly Melissa Barrera was treated over her support of Palestine. So I think that's fair enough, genuinely. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's definitely not great. The lead up to this movie is not good. I am very surprised they made a cohesive movie without Melissa Barrera in it. It is cohesive enough to be a Scream movie, but the movie still has problems, and we'll get into it, right? So that's my take on Melissa Barrera's firing.
I'm not even talking about the controversy.
Is that she was unfairly fired, in my opinion. And I think a majority of people would agree with that take.
With the movie. You guys know how I feel about that. I've talked about it plenty enough. To me, one of the most heartbreaking parts of what's happened to Scream is the toxicity in the fandom. And the way now this went from being one of my favorite franchises and series to talk about online to now I try to avoid it or not even make any videos on it because it has gotten that bad. If I talk positively or...
Yeah, it's... I will say, I brought it up earlier in this video, Scream has a very toxic community. Like, I mean, it's very strange because, like, people adore this franchise so much because it's existed since the 90s, but, like, people are so toxic when it comes to talking about these movies and, like, what they do with the plot of these movies. And it's like, I don't know, like, obviously... The franchise is definitely getting to a point now. We're at 7 movies, and we're probably going to be at an 8th movie. I wouldn't be surprised if very soon we're going to be in an 8th movie. But, like, we're getting to a point now where Scream it's been around for decades. It's been around for a really long time. And, like, people are never going to be satisfied. Obviously, Scream 1 was phenomenal when it came out, and I don't think they're ever going to make a movie that's going to be better than Scream 1. Just, like, truthfully. And I don't expect them to, quite frankly. I feel like that's an unreasonable expectation to have. And I think that's okay. You don't need to outdo the original, but you need to have something that's good enough and satisfying enough that it can be considered a Scream movie. I would say the only movie that has failed to really do this is Scream 3. Scream 3 is, in my opinion, the only bad Scream movie that exists. Every other movie I do enjoy, and I do like, actually. And I feel like they do set themselves apart from one another, from each of the characters that they have in that movie, et cetera, et cetera. That's how I feel about Scream 7, is I think it's good enough to be a Scream movie, but there are a lot of things that just really miss the mark about in the movie.
Show a bit of excitement.
And I will admit, some of the killers that get revealed in Scream 7, yes, there are multiple killers back this time around. That's part of what I have a problem with. It's also part of what I really like about this movie, too. And it's so weird. Like, but we'll talk about it.
For this movie, hate comments, death threats, anger, anger, anger. If I show any criticism or genuine concerns or things I don't like about the lead up to Scream 7, hate comments, death threats, anger, anger, anger. And I fully blame and hate Spyglass for that, because even right before seeing this movie, I wanted to even look at some reactions, get an idea of how people actually felt about this movie, and I am struggling to find reactions and reviews that feel like they are genuine. If you want to boycott and avoid this movie for what they did to Melissa Barrera, I support and applaud you, but when it comes to attacking fans, spoiling movies for them, review bombing, I just don't see how you're any better than the other side, who on that side then are just not saying anything negative about this movie, giving it 10 out of 10, pretending like it is now the best movie in the horror franchise just because you're angry at this other side.
I feel like there's a lot of I feel like what that has to do with more than anything is it goes back to the conversation about rage baiting. Like, it's a very popular tactic on Twitter, especially, where people will say something, even if they don't fully agree with the thing that they're posting, they will still post it regardless because they get some level of engagement from it. And this has unfortunately become a very popular thing to do in the online atmosphere, is just give a take that you don't fully agree with, just so you can either rile up people, troll them, or you do it to make money to some capacity. There's like many different reasons as to why people try to rage bait or give a take that even they don't fully agree with. It's kind of strange. I feel like a lot of it is just lost online these days. Like nobody's fucking genuine anymore. Like, and that, I feel like that's part of the reason why a lot of people that watch the Scream movies are just insufferable as fuck. Like, they're so annoying. It's like, they're never going to be satisfied regardless of what they do. And given the situation that Kevin Williamson was put... Because I don't think Kevin Williamson was not the one... He's the one who directed Scream 7. He's been writing for the Scream franchise forever. So, bringing back Kevin Williamson... I think it was definitely a good idea. It's probably the best thing they could have done. They had, like, another director that was supposed to be part of Scream 7... But Spyglass Entertainment let go of Melissa Barrera, again, for just saying Free Palestine on her Instagram story, which is fucking stupid.
I don't want to go into Scream 7 that way. I want to be honest and genuine on the things I thought this movie did good, things I thought it did really bad, and leave all biases and reservations at the door like I do with any movie I go to see. So that's the mindset I went into for my showing of Scream 7. I'm pretending like if I had just walked out of Scream 6 and I magically teleported to a showing of Scream 7, how, as I, a huge fan of this franchise, feel about this movie. All right, let's be honest now. Scream 7 to me is a solid movie with great ideas that was unfortunately executed terribly. And that...
Yeah, I mean, I see where 3C Films is coming from. I do. There are certain parts of the movie that were just not great. Now, when you first watch the movie, a lot of the graphics, like the credit graphics and the opening graphics that they use, is very much reminiscent of something out of like Scream 2 or Scream 3. They really went back in time with this one. Like, they really went old school with some parts of it. And that's fine. I mean, Kevin Williamson was directing it, so it makes sense that they went that route. But I just don't know if they really... It's hard to say if Scream 7 is... like, if it's going to be a film that's really going to matter in the grand scheme of things. Because when you really look at Scream 7 in the context of all the other films, what does the movie really add to the rest of the films? Because I can think of at least one thing that all the Scream movies add to the franchise, right? Scream 1, you know, it's like the building blocks with Sidney Prescott and then like Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, who are like the most iconic Ghostface killers, period, of all time. And then Scream 2, obviously, you have Nancy Loomis that adds on to it. And it sort of adds on to like Sidney's trauma. So like Nancy Loomis, I would say, really progressed the timeline heavily and like also added to the, I guess, meta of, you know, horror movie rules and like how Randy's like inclusion of like the horror movie rules as well was definitely like, they were definitely playing into the meta side of things with Scream 2. Even if you hate Scream 3, I personally really hated Scream 3. It's still my least favorite movie in the franchise. I think Scream 7 is better than Scream 3, but even that, well, again, we'll talk about that. Scream 3, Roman Bridger was a huge part of Scream 3, and he is Sidney's like half-brother. So that was like an insane reveal, and that's huge for in the context of the Scream timeline. And then Scream 4 didn't come out until like 11 years after Scream 3, and then they what they did was whatchamacallit, Sidney's niece, who was Jill Roberts, or cousin. No, they're cousins. Sorry, excuse me. They're not nieces. They're cousins. My bad. Yeah, no, Jill Roberts was like a huge part of the, I guess, Prescott bloodline or whatever. And her Ghostface killer is very good, I would say. She is a very, very solid Ghostface killer, but, you know, I feel like people glaze Scream 4 a little harder than they should. But, I mean, it's still not a bad movie. I still enjoyed Scream 4. Scream 5 was like the reset of the franchise, and it goes into toxic fandom. That added on to the timeline very nicely. Even Scream 6, I would say, you know, like they, I think Scream 6 was like bringing everything together, bringing the entire franchise together to really go tie back into Samantha as a character. And her bloodline is part of Nancy Loomis and Billy Loomis, as Billy Loomis is her father and Nancy Loomis is her grandmother, right? So I think that's, that fit in nicely. Scream 7, however, and this is the point that I'm trying to make. I spent a lot of time trying to make this point, but we're finally getting up to here. Scream 7, what does this movie really do for the timeline? Because I don't see it right now. I guess the only thing I can think of is Tatum is Sidney's daughter, so I feel like the only thing that this film really adds is just like, I guess it builds the relationship with Tatum, and they're going to set up Tatum for the rest of the Scream franchise. That's the only thing I can think of, because so far, aside from that, this movie doesn't really add that much to the Scream franchise, despite Sidney Prescott coming back as the main character. I don't fully understand it. I don't know. Maybe the answer will become clear as we settle in with this film, but that's just my take regarding that.
That's honestly how I feel walking out of this. It's a mixed bag of a movie, because there are things in here I loved. I thought that was cool. That was great. I wish we could have dissected that more. But the lows of this movie, my goodness, the lows of it bring it down so much. I don't know how, if you're a genuine Scream fan who was excited and didn't care about any controversy, how do you walk away from this movie actually looking at me in the face and going, that was a pretty good time. So let me get it.
Yeah, how I felt walking out of the theater is I was thinking about the movie a lot. And this movie got me thinking more than any Scream movie previously. I had a lot of different questions about things. I kept thinking about some of the things I didn't like about the movie, but I also kept thinking that there are certain parts of this movie that are just so weird, and I guess I might as well talk about it. The weirdest part of this movie, in my opinion, is the killer reveal. Easily. I don't know how they revealed in my personal opinion, one of the best Ghostface killers probably that this franchise has seen, except Billy and Stu Macher, which are obviously legendary status. No Ghostface killer is ever going to be better than those two, obviously. And I guess Jill Roberts too, and Amber Freeman as well. They're pretty good. But I would say this is one of the Ghostface killers is probably a top 5 for me. However, her accomplices suck. They're terrible. And I say accomplices, yes, there's technically 3 Ghostface killers. However, how they do it is a little bit strange. About, I want to say, maybe 30 or 40% into the movie, there is a Ghostface killer that actually does get revealed. They unmask him because they wind up injuring him very badly. They run him over with a fucking car. I'm not even kidding. I think he's dead at that point. And then they unmask him, and it turns out he was somebody who escaped from a psychiatric ward. And so, obviously, the 2 real Ghostface killers were just using him as like a pawn, like a Ghostface pawn killer, to do their bidding, essentially. So, technically, it's 3 Ghostface killers, but for all intents and purposes, it is the regular 2 Ghostface killers that we're normally used to at the very end of the movie. One of them is the mother of a Scream fanatic, basically, and she is, her motive is literally just she was in an abusive relationship, and she she wound up killing her husband because she was inspired by one of Sydney's books that she published to basically deal with your trauma and deal with the source of the trauma. And as a result of her abusive relationship, she kills her husband. And as a result of that as well, she also kills her own kid because her kid reminds her of her abusive husband. I think that's pretty fucked up, but there is a lot going on there. We haven't seen anything like that in a Scream movie ever. That is something I really enjoyed. And then her accomplice is just some fucking bald guy that works at a psychiatric center that is just like, oh yeah, I used to work at Google and I could do AI stuff. Yeah, that's literally it. There's no motive for him. I'm not even kidding. They don't explain why he's killing. They don't explain why he puts on a ghost face mask and starts killing people. He's just there for the sake of being there for some fucking reason. It's just like, oh, okay, I guess. You're just here for the ride, I guess. Well, okay. Some fucking 40 or 50-year-old man decides to throw his entire life away. For seemingly no reason, just because he's like, yeah, I'm good with AI. It's so dumb. Like, they don't expand upon why he's doing it at all. He's just a blank slate of a killer. He's so lame. That's why, I think this movie is weird. That's one of the biggest reasons why I think this movie is weird, is because there is a lot going on with the mother Ghostface killer that gets revealed, and there's not really a lot going on with the fucking bald guy. I forget his name. I think his name was Marco. I looked it up on the Scream Wiki. Bro, he was such a nothing Ghostface. I didn't even know what his name was until I looked it up on the Scream Wiki. It's just so odd. I don't know, man. It's a little bit strange. It's definitely, like I said, it's one of the weirder Scream movies for sure.
To the positives with this, I think the thing that will actually have some people walking out of Scream 7 who are fans going, I thought that was good. That was enjoyable. I kind of like what they did. Is Sidney Prescott and the relationship she has with her daughter.
Absolutely, yeah. That's another good thing I really liked about this movie as well. Is Sidney and Tatum have a very, very good relationship. And they're also setting up Tatum to be, the next star of Scream. Going into Scream 8. And maybe even Scream 9 if we get a Scream 9. They're really setting her up to be, one of the more main characters. Assuming that Neve Campbell isn't able to act anymore. Any number of things could happen. So, you know what I mean? They're really setting her up. But yeah, bringing back Sidney is always a plus. It's always good to see Sidney on screen. Also, Sidney is starting a coffee shop, which I personally am a little bit biased to because I've been getting into a lot of coffee work as well. So I'm a little bit biased. Maybe I enjoyed that aspect of it. You've never truly had a tumultuous career until you've done like several different things in your life and then started a coffee shop. You know, Sydney's got quite the resume on her. She went from being somebody who's studying theater in college to then becoming doing like a suicide crisis hotline in Scream 3. I think she became an author in Scream 4, and then she started caretaking after other people's babies in Scream 5, and now she owns a coffee shop in Scream 7. Wow. That's quite a lot on your resume, Sydney. Man.
To me, is
I guess if you're known as like the survivor of the fucking Scream movies, I suppose anything is possible. You can get a career in anything, but at what cost? You know, she has lifelong trauma, and obviously, like, you could tell Sydney throughout the entire movie is just like very, very cautious of like Ghostface killers, and she's very secure about everything. And for good reason. I mean, she's had like 5 movies, because we're not counting Scream 6. She wasn't in Scream 6. She's had like 5 movies where she just cannot fucking she just can't catch a break from Ghostface killers. It's tough stuff.
The ultimate highlight and the very big redeeming quality of this film that doesn't make it a complete train wreck. Because I'm not willing to say the movie's garbage or a piece of trash. There are really great things in here, and that for me was the thing that as a Scream fan made me the happiest.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of good things to enjoy about Scream 7. But you're gonna have to expect some weird roadblocks. Again, one of the killer reveals was absolute fucking dog shit. Whatchamacallit, some of the other characters were kind of just weird. Like, the boyfriend character was kind of just, like, a nothing. Like, some of these were obvious red herrings as well. Like, the boyfriend having, like, a deep fake shit on his laptop. And yes, by the way, that's a huge part, is AI-generated content. We expected this, though, based on, like, the trailers, with, like, fucking Stu Macher being revealed. Like, Stu Macher being revealed, like, that was so obvious. We knew they were going to go down the AI route. There's no way they would just reveal Stu Macher as a killer in the trailer of the movie. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So it was pretty obvious they were going to go the AI route, but like the boyfriend was an obvious red herring. He had like an AI thing that he was testing with on the laptop, and it obviously wasn't him, and then he died to the Ghostface killer. Again, there's a lot of stuff that's in this movie that like is worth looking into, but there's also a lot that's just not worth it at all.
The focus back on Neve Campbell. I'm not saying it should have been the direction for this movie, but all I'm saying is if this was the original Scream 5, that it's going to follow Sidney Prescott, her daughter, her family life, a Ghostface coming back into attack, that is the Scream 5 I begged for. It's unfortunate the circumstances we had to go through to get this one, but that all alone is the thing I like. And I think a lot of that is because of Kevin Williamson. You guys know he is the original writer, creator of Scream, and after 7 movies, he finally was given the chance to direct one, and that was the thing that made me the most excited for Scream 7.
I mean, it makes sense, right? If Kevin Williamson was writing for Scream for a long time, he's been writing since, like, Scream 1. Like, he's been around for ages. So, like, Kevin Williamson has, I would say, a lot to work with to justify having him direct this film. And I think that is probably one of the better choices he could, that I guess the franchise has done to have some hope that Scream 7 could be good, given the roller coaster of a ride the build-up to the release of Scream 7 was. Now, some of the things Kevin Williamson executed in this movie, not great. And to be fair, I think before Scream 7, Kevin Williamson only directed 2 movies prior. So, like, it's not like he doesn't understand what goes into making a film, but he may not have as much experience as, like, someone like Wes Craven, who has directed plenty of films in the past and understands what to do when some of the things go wrong when you're shooting films, right? So he may not understand that as much, and maybe it's been a while since he has directed, so it's possible that he ran into some roadblocks. That is naturally going to be a thing that happens when you haven't directed for a long time, or at least don't have as much experience directing as other directors do. So I can sympathize with that from a filmmaking standpoint, because I've worked on film sets as well. It's definitely not easy work at all.
Even the announcement that Stu and Matthew Lillard was coming back, it was Kevin Williamson finally given creative control, because I thought he was maybe the missing element in Scream 5 and 6 of, although I liked and enjoyed those movies quite a bit, I always walked away out of 5 and 6 going, there's something missing. And it's not Sidney Prescott being the star. I'm like, there's just a vibe, a tone, something missing. And Kevin Williamson was able to re-inject that familiar Scream element that only he brought to the franchise. Because to me,
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because Scream 5 and 6, like, when you watch it in comparison to the original trilogy, and even Scream 4 for that matter, I guess quadrilogy, is that even a real word? Quadrilogy? Whatever. When you watch Scream 5 and 6 in the context of the previous movies, you realize, yeah, it doesn't really quite feel like those movies, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe the movie is not as, I guess it doesn't have that same feeling, but maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be good. And Scream 5 and 6 were good movies, so it doesn't necessarily have to have the Kevin Williamson feel to be a good Scream movie, but it also did feel like something was missing. And Scream 7, like, the moment you watch the film, you realize, oh yeah, I can tell that Kevin Williamson wrote this. Like, you just have that feeling that he did something, like, because it feels very familiar with the kind of work that Kevin Williamson did in the past.
The best Scream movies are the ones that he had a creative control over, whether it's Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 4, my favorite sequel. And so with him getting to co-write this movie, you can tell he put a lot of love into the relationship between Sidney and Tatum, the daughter, in here. I wasn't a big fan of Isabel May when she got announced to be the daughter of Sidney Prescott. I was like, really, this actress? I don't know. And even in the trailers and the posters, I'm like, I'm just not getting the vibe I should for this being Sidney Prescott's daughter.
She was good, though. Isabel May was actually, like, surprisingly very good. I wasn't expecting her to be, like, super amazing, but she actually was a lot better than I give her credit for. Also, I just got a thought in my head. The motive for Scream 7 is good, but, well, mainly from the mother, not so much the fucking bald guy who was just there for the ride, and he's like an actual nothing burger Ghostface killer whatsoever. The opening scene, right? Like, if you've seen the movie, even if you've seen the trailer, you know what the opening scene is. Ghostface burns down the Stu Macher house completely. Like, he completely just fucking burns the shit out of it. And that's very interesting, because it's like, this Ghostface killer could be different compared to previous Ghostface killers. The motive in the context of burning the Stu Macher house, I'm now thinking to myself, in hindsight, what was the point of that? What was the point of burning down the house then? Like, they didn't really, like, address it that much. Like, when you think of the motive of the mother obviously dealt with an abusive boyfriend and stuff, and, like, that's a good motive. And she used Sidney Prescott's, like, book as inspiration, and she saved her or whatever. But also, she killed her own son because it was, because her son reminded her of her abusive husband. And so, like, that's pretty fucked up, but also, it's a good motive. It just doesn't feel fitting in the context of the actual, like, burning down Stu Macher's house. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't really feel like it does anything. I don't know. It just feels like they kind of just burned down Stu Macher's house just to get, like, a cool trailer clip, and then that was it. Like, it didn't really do anything with it in the movie. It's just, I'm very, like, looking back at it, and I just realized it now, like, what was the point of that?
In none of the marketing I got that. In the movie itself, I did get that. I thought the back and forth of what was being explored was really good. What is it like to grow up as the daughter of the infamous Sidney Prescott? Have all of her life be turned into movies, books, crime shows, your friends, everyone you know is familiar with the life of your mother. How does that affect your relationship with friends, boyfriends? That stuff you could tell Kevin Williamson actually did well, and is by far my favorite part, along with the opening scene. I thought the opening scene of Scream 7 was actually super good. I hated how a lot of the big moments were spoiled in the trailer.
I don't know. I think the Scream 7 opening scene, I feel like it overstayed its welcome. Like, it definitely was a good opening scene. I really enjoyed the opening scene of Scream 7. I would say it's probably a top 3 opening scene, maybe in the franchise. I think my favorite opening scene is actually Scream 6. I think Scream 6 has the best opening scene in the entire franchise. But Scream 7's opening scene is definitely up there for sure. Scream 7 has a very good opening scene. My only complaint about it is that it does tend to overstay its welcome. It's a lot longer compared to other Scream opening scenes. So it is a little bit frustrating after a while. I kind of did remember, okay, can we just get to like the actual Ghostface killer? But then that wound up, I don't know, this opening, it also feels like in the context of the rest of the movie, this opening scene just doesn't really matter because it, like, Ghostface burns down the house, but, like, you would think that they do that for a reason because they want to leave the legacy behind in the past, but it doesn't really feel like they're actually doing that. Like, what if I feel like if they expanded upon the husband thing a little bit more and connected it back to Stu Macher in some way, maybe, I don't know, dude, it just feels so pointless to burn the fucking house down. Like, why did they do that?
To me, that was a peaking point of the movie, and since after that you segue into Sidney and her life with Tatum, the first act of this movie, extremely solid, well put together, and I was sitting in the theater for the first 30 minutes going, oh man, I'm liking this. I think this is actually pretty good. And unfortunately, it is after about the 25-30 minute mark. The movie reveals something, introduces something, and it takes a nosedive, and it just keeps going and going and going till I was just so utterly disappointed. Because the rest of what I got to talk about is a mixed bag. I was just talking so much about how I love, respect, and enjoy Kevin Williamson, and I was happiest he was joining into the franchise. Unfortunately, I think it was a mistake to make him the director. It shouldn't have been a surprise when you look at his filmography, and he's really only directed one movie, another film that had to be redone all over by a different director. Like, I was delusional to think he could just handle directing a Scream movie after what Wes Craven and Radio Silence had done. That, I think, might have been the biggest detriment to this movie, is his directing, because, guys, it's a TV movie. It feels like it was shot to be premiered on the CW, and I hate saying that about Kevin Williamson, someone I highly respect and admire, because it's not even just the look of the movie and the way it felt so cheap, it's the pacing, it's the way things were handled. A better director honestly could have made this movie go from the way I was disappointed to a really good movie. Because again, I state there are great ideas in what they're trying to do, and there are different things that they haven't done in the Scream franchise before. Something with Ghostface in the middle of the movie, I was like, oh, that's different. This is new. Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the part where they reveal one of the killers about maybe 20 or 30 minutes into the movie, that's what he's talking about. That's what I assume he's talking about here, is they reveal one of the killers who's actually being used. He's essentially being used as a pawn by the two main killers in the movie. That's something new that they haven't done before in a Scream film. That was pretty cool to me. And I was like, oh, okay. I sort of figured it out in the middle. Like, I was still very confused. I was like, is it still technically one killer? Like, one other killer that's doing all the work? But no, it's still two killers, like, in actuality of the movie. And they just used him as a pawn. I was like, I kind of figured that out midway through. Like, the movie gives you clues as to the things that they do, and that the things they're about to do. So, I don't know. There are still a lot of parts in this movie that definitely leave a lot to be desired, I would say.
But that momentum, that steam, that anytime you're doing something different and straying away from the formula, it autopilots right back to following the formula to a T and coming off so generic. Gail, to me, was a complete waste to be added in here. She has an awesome introduction in the movie that almost made me want to stand up and clap. It was such a cool moment. But the rest of her involvement, other than a few dialogue scenes between Sidney, just forgetful. And that forgetfulness even goes to disappointing, because she just entirely disappears for almost half the movie with little justification on why. Tatum as a character,
Well, I think mainly it was because Gale Weathers heard of the Ghostface killings happening in Pine Grove, and so she obviously comes here to, you know, do the, whatchamacallit, the, like, reporting, the typical Gale things that they do. And obviously Chad and Mindy came back as well, so that was pretty cool that they returned for Scream 7. But also, it just, again, there's just so much in this movie that just feels so, I don't know, man. There's just so much that I walked out of it thinking that there's a lot of good things that they want it to do with this film, and there's a lot of like different parts that they executed well, but there are so many parts that really sucked about this movie, and that's what makes this movie so weird, is that like there are so many, like, I don't know, like, I think the motive for the mother is good, but I also think that, like, they just never tied the burning of the house in the beginning back to it. Maybe that's what was bothering me about it so much. I don't know. Like I said, it's going to definitely take some time to actually process this movie and maybe, like, sit with it for a while and marinate with it, you know? Like, let it think about what this means in the context of the rest of the Scream franchise and how we move forward with the franchise after this film, right?
Happy I liked, but all her friends, so one-dimensional, barely set up as characters, and some of them come and go so quickly that even though they attempt to do really gory, nasty kills, they have no impact because they have not made you care about these people.
That is true, actually. A lot of these characters are just like, they're not really anything we haven't seen before in a Scream film. Like, we've seen their character, like, we've seen at least characters that are similar to some of the characters that they introduced in this film previously. Like, we've seen them before, and it's just kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's interesting.
Something else I was seeing a lot of praise of. It's like, it's not the best story. It's got some weaknesses, but those kills. I was like, all right, let's see them. I don't know what y'all are talking about. The kills, again, on paper, an idea. The kills, yes, were gnarly, but they are so bogged down by CGI blood, CGI guts. They are not directed well and come off so cheap and almost laughable. I can't wait to get into spoilers to talk about specific moments within these kills that, although they're gory and nasty, way more than they have been for the Scream franchise, they come off feeling very cartoonish and cheap. Along with me saying a better director with Kevin Williamson's ideas could have made this a stronger movie, the film is about 2 hours long and you really do start to feel it. It has a dragging pace to it where you are just wanting this to go over. There's kind of an intriguing mystery, and the movie is trying to point you in one direction, but it never fully earns the mystery. Still, though, because this movie still wants to follow the formula that we have been doing for past 7 movies, I think this time around, you really feel how paint by the numbers it is and how it's like, how could we do this for an 8th time? I'm happy that the movie's looking to be making a lot of money and they have plans for an 8th movie, because I'll be there for 8, 9, and 10, okay? Yeah, I'm a whore for these movies. So
same. You know, even if Scream 7 was an absolute shit show, dog shit movie, which I don't think it was. I don't want to say that Scream 7 is a dog shit movie. I don't think it was, personally. I would say I enjoyed the movie more than hated it. Like, I thought it's a good Scream movie. I don't think it's an amazing Scream film. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as, like, say, Scream 5 or 6, maybe. I would say that I would probably rank Scream 7 a little below that. It's definitely one of the weirder and more unique Scream films, I would say. They do a lot of things in this film that they haven't really done with previous Scream movies. Again, it's one of those things where you really just have to see the movie to believe it. But again, I mean, chances are if you're watching this video, you probably have already seen the movie and you're watching it, or maybe you don't give a shit about spoilers and you're just watching this video anyways. In which case, there you go. I still think it's worth watching, but expect some complicated stuff in the film, we'll say.
Sorry, but at the end of the day, I want them to be good. I want them to be enjoyable. And if you're telling me 8, 9, and 10 are still gonna follow the formula that this movie does, it's gonna be torture going to go see them. Since they announced Stu and a lot of other cast members returning, which, what a desperate move, man, because when you see the movie, and they announced officially in actual publications, and it's usually the studio that lets those things out. It wasn't scoopers or leakers. It was actual websites that told you Matthew Lillard's back, David Arquette is back, Scott Foley, Roman Bridger, they're all back. The way they are used and come back in this movie is my least favorite thing about it, and it makes me so mad to think about that they thought, oh, this is a brilliant way to do this, huh, guys?
Yeah, okay, so that's another thing we'll talk about is, I mean, we obviously knew that Ghostface was going to take an AI deepfake route. We kind of figured that was the case. Like, that's kind of just like where the meta is moving going forward. So yeah, it makes sense that Roman Bridger and Nancy Loomis and whatchamacallit, Stu Macher, all these people got roles back, like all the previous Ghostfaces came back as deepfakes in the film. I think on paper that is a very interesting way to explore it, but the way they do it kind of feels a little bit rushed. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really get that much time to develop. And again, when you get the Ghostface reveal at the very end that it's the fucking bald guy that worked at the psychiatric center, who's like, I worked at Google, and I know how deepfake AIs work and stuff, and I really love doing deepfake AI shit. It's like, okay, why the fuck are you here? Why are you killing people? Like it doesn't explain why you're a Ghostface killer. It's like, okay, it explains how you know how to do AI deepfakes, but we're at a point now where anybody can do AI deepfakes meaningfully. Anyone with a fucking computer and some money can purchase like a premium version of like Grok or something and be able to type in a prompt and get like an AI video of something, of whatever the fuck they want, right? That is the point that we're at. You don't need like this expert Google person to fucking work on like an AI thing for your killer. You can have fucking killers who are able to type in the prompts themselves. Like, they're not, like, these are not stupid people. They're able to at least be somewhat smart enough to intricately do these killings and murders to begin with.
Giant waste of Matthew Lillard, Stu Macher. My disappointment there is immeasurable, but probably not as much as the Ghostface reveal, because I thought Scream 6 was the worst Ghostface reveal of the entire franchise. You guys know that was my biggest pet peeve with Scream 6. I was like, that movie did a lot of great things, but once that Ghostface mask came off, I was not a fan. Bro, they tried challenging themselves to see, could we do it worse? Could we have a dumber motive?
Well, one of the motives was stupid. The, bald guy's motive was stupid. The woman's motive, in my opinion, I actually really liked it, and I think there's a lot of character depth with it, but, it doesn't amount to anything, and it also doesn't make sense why they burned the fucking Stu Macher house in the beginning of the film. That's my biggest problem with it. Is, like, I think, in theory, a Ghostface killer that has, like, an abusive husband and deals with it by becoming a serial killer is actually a very good idea on paper, because, like, that's something we haven't seen in a Scream film. So I actually think Jessica, who is the mother Ghostface killer, I think she's a lot better than people are giving her credit for. He might say something that I disagree with. That's totally fine. He may not like her motive. That's totally fine. I thought her motive was good. They probably could have made it a little bit better and actually given it, like, tied it back to the house somehow, or tied it back to, like, the franchise as a whole, or meaningfully to Ghostface as a whole. But on paper, I think it's a good idea that hasn't really been explored in a Scream film before.
Let's give it a shot. The motive in this movie. No, come on, Scream fans. I'm sorry. If you are someone that just wants to love this movie no matter what and be delusional, trust me, hey, I've been there. I'm a Spider-Man fan. I convinced myself to love every movie no matter what. I know what you're feeling. But come here. Seriously, look at me. Think of the motivation. Think of the Ghostface.
Like, half of the motivation's stupid. One half of it is good on paper. They probably could have done a little more with it, maybe. I don't know. I'm open to that criticism. I think, yeah, maybe they should have dealt with it in, like, a way that was, like, actually relevant to Ghostface. But again, a Ghostface killer that is a mother that kills her own fucking child because she had an abusive marriage, and her son reminds her of the abusive marriage, and instead of going to therapy, she becomes a serial killer. Like, I don't know. There is something there. You cannot tell me that there isn't something there, or in an idea that they could play around with. You know what I mean? We haven't seen that in a Scream film before. I don't know. Maybe the way that it was done as a whole, especially given her accomplice was really fucking stupid and bad. I think as a whole, I can understand why people felt disappointed overall as a result of that.
Reveal. I don't care if this is your favorite franchise in the world. You cannot be honest with me and say with a straight face, that was good. No, buddy. Set yourself free. Look at yourself in the mirror. Take a walk. Breathe.
Well, I mean, I did give my take on it. Like, again,
the mayor. That was awful, and you know it. Don't just say you love everything about this despite some people online you hate. Be honest, man. Because if we don't be honest, they're going to keep doing these crappy reveals, these terrible motivations, these awful moments. Like, I want Scream 8 to be great. I want Scream 9 to be awesome. But they're not going to be if we pretend this was good. This was great. I love this.
No, I get where he's coming from. Like, obviously, there's, like, this motive sucked for him, mainly. Again, I've already given my thoughts on the motive. I think the bald guy just sucked. He's easy. I would say the bald guy that like worked for Google and then a fucking psychiatric. By the way, can I just ask, how do you get a career change from working at Google, which is a fucking high-paying job, and you could get like an insanely good deal there, and then you end up working at a fucking psychiatric hospital? How the fuck does that work? Like, who gets motivated to do that? That's crazy. That's even more crazy to me. I don't know, dude.
And that's what's sad to me. It's because of online discourse and debating, people are just going to eat this up and pretend like it's actually a great Scream movie. So,
well, there's parts of it that are good. Like I said, that's why I think this is a weird movie, is that there are parts of it that just are stinky, you know, like, but there are also parts of it that are done really well that we haven't seen before in a Scream film. So again, that's why it's so weird. And also part of it, like, parts of the movie try to go back to its roots with, like, especially with the opening scene and like the graphics that they use and stuff. You can tell that it has a Kevin Williamson feel to the movie, and that's been missing for the past few movies, obviously.
Again, to be fair, there was things I liked about it. Mindy and Chad I thought were handled well and fit organically into the story with what they're doing with Gale Weathers. Even something that kind of surprised me, Joel McHale, not going to say he was awesome or amazing, but as someone who laughed when they said he would be Sidney Prescott's husband, I thought he was actually pretty good, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess you are worthy to be Sidney Prescott's husband. That and a couple of set pieces, like the scene where Sidney and Tatum are going through the wall and Ghostface has to like stab him. Like, yeah, I thought that was really good. Talked about the opening being great. So I think, to me, if I was able to be the executive and put some things in order, I would fully hand creative writing reins to Kevin Williamson, because he does have refreshing good ideas for this series if you let him. Watching his interview about his original plan for 5 and 6 with Jill makes me so mad the studio never let him do those movies, because those feel like the correct direction for where Scream should have gone, instead of these movies that think they're clever and smart for just mirroring the first 3 movies. That's going backwards. That's not moving forwards. So let him have writing control, but you got to get a better director. Christopher Landon, honestly, probably could have made this movie really good, because again, I'm telling you, you'll watch it.
Yeah, the problem is that Christopher Landon, I guess it wasn't technically Christopher Landon's fault. It was Spyglass, which is the company that he was like under, decided to fire Melissa Barrera, and then the fucking shooting and like the pre-production was just a total fucking nightmare for what Scream 7 originally was supposed to be. And by the way, I take this with a massive grain of salt. If I remember correctly, I think the original plan for Scream 7 had Melissa Barrera not gotten fired. I believe it would have been the first time that we got 2 female Ghostface killers. And I think that it would have taken place in London, actually. So that's the first time a Scream film takes place outside of the country. I don't know. I think that would have been interesting, having a Ghostface run around in fucking London. That would be an interesting concept for a Scream movie. I don't know what the motivation would have been. Who knows what they would have done with the characters, but again, I mean, we got what we got. You know, Kevin Williamson can still write. He still has the fire in him. He just may not be as good in the directing part of things, which again, you know, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. You know, directing is a whole different ball game than actually writing the damn thing.
And you'll see it and you'll go, I like this idea, I like this direction, that's a kind of cool thing, but it's not executed in a way that feels fulfilled to its full potential. And those are my honest thoughts with this, and when we go into spoilers, I'll get way more in detail about the things that irked me with this one. So when it comes to Scream 7, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. I actually think the Ghostface in here was very ruthless, and for at least the first half of the movie is consistently showing up. Like, you were moving location to location and Ghostface is there and you're like, wow, this is good.
Yeah, I would say some of the kills in this film were definitely pretty good. Like the hanging scene from the school, I guess, auditorium or whatever. That was a pretty brutal Ghostface kill. The opening scene where Ghostface just burns that woman alive at the very end. Oh my god, that was cold. That was insanely... That's what brings the opening scene up for me by a lot, and it's easily in my top 3 favorite opening scenes. But again, my least favorite part about that opening scene is that it just fucking drags on longer than it should have. Like, I feel like they could have, like, made that opening scene maybe, like, 2 minutes less long, and it still would have been fine. I don't know. That's just me, though. But yeah, no, Ghostface was pretty brutal in this movie, for sure.
before it starts taking a really slow nosedive. Comedy in the movie, I'll give 2 stars too. I think a lot of that was Chad and Mindy. I thought they were actually pretty funny. Drama in the film, I'm giving 2.5 stars, man. A lot of cool ideas, interesting things, but the Ghostface motivation, the way they try to play with you on what's actually happening, it really feels like a made-for-TV movie plot. Suspense of the film, I'm gonna give 2.5 stars. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling the suspense. A lot of these characters I'm meeting for the first time. You're not giving me much reason to like them or care for them other than Tatum and of course Sydney. Plus you make Gale disappear for half the movie. Most of the people in danger, I'm like, fine, go ahead. Why do I care, Ghostface? And horror in the film, I guess I'll give 2.5 stars. They really actually try to go violent and gory with this one, which is so weird with how much they were talking down Scream 6 for being violent and gory, and now this is like the most violent Scream movie. Too bad it's a lot of CGI blood and guts. When it comes to the 3 Cs, this is tough.
Yeah, I feel like they did substitute a lot of CGI in this film more than others, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know, man. Maybe they did it with, I think they did that with Scream 3, right? I could be wrong. Like, it's one of the earlier Scream movies, before 5 and 6, they used some CGI, I'm pretty sure.
I can't really even say casual, although that would be the person that would enjoy this the most. And the reason I can't say it is because it harpens so much on nostalgia. Feels like a Marvel movie at times with its Easter egg and cameos, and casual fans aren't going to pick up on that, but cinephiles will be offended by some of the things they do in here with the fandom. So it is probably best to go with casuals. In the end, for me, I really hate to say it, this is going to be one of the weakest entries in the Scream franchise, and I think Scream 7 should be watched or rented at home.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
We'll see if Scream 8 will be any better, but oh man, with them continuing the formula, who knows? Stay tuned for the spoiler review. Leave me your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.
Okay, I mean, yeah, so what do I think of Scream 7 overall? I think if you have been a diehard fan of Scream for a while, chances are you're probably not going to like this movie at first. Probably. I remember walking out of the movie theater earlier today, or tonight I should say, having like a weird feeling, just like, oh yeah, that was a little bit odd, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, I don't know how to feel about it, you know? It's just like a little bit like, I had a lot to think about in regards to the film, because there's a lot of weird things that they do with this film. But, like, also there are things that I did like about it, so I don't know. I would say if you're a Whoa, I burped there for a moment. If you're a diehard fan of the Scream franchise, give it a go. Sure, why not? But otherwise, you know, if you just casually watch the films, maybe it's best to sit this one out.